Hello and welcome back. MC1 Gamer here, bringing you another Age of Sigmar Warhammer Batrep. This time it's going to be a 1,000 point game. The game is going to be the from the matched play section of the General's Handbook, and it's 3 places of power. So I have been actually demoing quite a bit with new players that have either joined from other systems or have come over from 40K or have returned after a long hiatus away from Warhammer, or maybe have migrated over after they didn't really jump on board with the Age of Sigmar launch, and now are looking to get back in and have been long-standing fantasy players. So there's a lot of these 1,000 point games that I've been doing with people that have started to build up their armies either with starting boxes, or they bought armies from eBay or Bartertown or wherever, and they just want to get into a regular game. I'm doing an escalation league as well, and this is one of those games. This is a newer player to Age of Sigmar, but a veteran player of tabletop wargaming in general, and he's played a variety of games, including 40K, and he's come down to the one of the local shops that I frequent, and he's got an interesting army, a Skaven army, and he's very interested in playing this Skaven, and he's introducing some Nurgle stuff to complement his plague-oriented Skaven army, and we threw it down for a 1,000 point game, which was half demo, half half just kicking around a match play scenario and seeing how things turn out. So what happens is I line up just a variety of different troops. I have a bunch of zombies. I think I might have about 20. I think I have 40 zombies total. I think I have 20 in 2 units. A necromancer, a corpse cart. There's a lot of great synergies here. I mean, the necromancer allows for the Van Hell's Dance, which gives you the chance to activate the unit twice. There's limitations. It has to be either, it's like the flesh eater court type units, or zombies or skeletons. You're really not going to get some of the more elite troops to be able to work with that, but still, it really increases the value of those troops. The corpse cart gives you a number of different things. It gives me a +1 to my casting because I took that version, and it also enhances the zombies, which have one of the best rules, I think, in Age of Sigmar in terms of fluff. The more zombies you have, the better they are. They're crap when you just have 10 of them. They only hit on 6s, they wound on 6s, they have no armor save to speak of. The only defense they have is the Deathless Minions Allegiance ability, so you have to be near a hero, and you can combine them when you have multiple units of them in the hero phase, which is also phenomenal because you can get the accelerator when you do so. And also, if they kill any units on a 6 roll of 6, you basically turn that unit into a zombie. You just get a free zombie. You don't have that unit with any special abilities or anything, but you get a free zombie basically added to your unit. And with match play rules, you can only get maximum up to the maximum total of zombies you have. And by the way, I don't want to hear any nonsense about that you can't combine zombies in match play. That's ludicrous. Should just don't even bother. Don't even bother going there. You can do it. You're not going beyond the maximum number of models in the unit. You're just combining them with a special rule. So let's leave that at the door, okay, guys? I know there's a minority of misguided people that think that that's the case, that are trying to neuter it. But this is one of the best abilities that the zombies have, and it's an absolutely great ability. So let's not have that debate. Anyway, let's move on to the right side of this slightly blurry picture. I have a unit of 5 Blood Knights, and then I have a unit of 5 Hex Wraiths, and then my general, which is just a Lord mounted, a Vampire Lord mounted. So we go to, this is my right side. So yeah, I get my first of 20 zombies here. These are my men-at-arms zombies. If you don't know, if you're new to the channel, everything's converted up to be Bretonnian Undead, so the Mouselin theme, and also you'll see quite a lot of my 3D printed terrain here from printable scenery. And then here's the my other this side of the table, which is pretty heavied up with some power. Now, a lot of people have commented with me, and I've done a bunch of unlocking videos about just about every army and every subfaction in the game since before Age of Sigmar, since we're deep into 8th edition for a few years. And I loved hex wraiths in the old edition. I've been really trying to see how I can play hex wraiths in Age of Sigmar. They're a little bit more sturdy, a lot more killy. Their special ability that allows them to kind of fly over and through units and then potentially do mortal wounds is not quite as powerful, but it's still a pretty effective way to dish out some mortal wounds. And I'm really trying to play with some of the strategies and tactics that can come from using them in that way. So I'm making a concerted effort to put them on the battlefield. And one of the theories that I have is that I can put up a tanky unit, a really tough unit in the front line, get them stuck in, and then fly these guys over either to try and dish mortal wounds on a tough to get to target in the back lines, or harry my opponent, the rear of my opponent, the rear lines of my opponent rather, because they can fly the hex wraiths, so they can get over and they can move pretty quickly. And if you run them, they still get their special ability because all they got to do is fly over an enemy unit, and they can dish some really key focal targeted mortal wounds to say wizards hiding in behind several lines of your opponent's troops where you can't normally get to them unless you have shooting or something like that. And they're gonna come out of nowhere, really, and because people are not going to pay attention to them, they're just going to suddenly appear in people's back, the back of their lines, and that could really change up a lot of strategy and adjust and really ruin some of the plans of your opponent. And anytime you do that, you're one step closer to winning. In any case, that's my my army. My opponent has, and this is a newer army that he's starting to build. So he's starting to paint it. So there's some gray models, and I'm working on making sure my stuff is at least modestly painted. I'm really making a great effort to have that to have completed army, painted armies on my tabletop. So he's got a plate called Catapult. He's got a couple of weapon teams. He's got a pretty sizable unit of clan rats here. He's got some plague monks that are next to a furnace, and I think another line of a small unit of clan rats. And on the plague furnace is I believe his general, which is a caster. I'm not sure if he's a caster or if he just has some special abilities, but it's considered a leader in the match play framework. So he's got he's got some pretty sizable units, which is going to help for dealing with things like battle shock. But we rolled up a scenario where it's really about the heroes, and I think this is his only leader. His only hero, rather, so he's only going to be able to obtain objectives here with just this, and that's just how list building works. And it's one of the lessons that you have. You really want to have some redundancy. You need to have combinations of various different unit types and sizes, because if you're rolling randomly for a game, you never know what you're going to get. So you want to have something with some diversity, and if you skew in one way or another, you may do well in one game, but you might not do over the course of several different game types, and that's why I like the scenario. So here's our setup for the table, and you see a scattering of some various different terrain types. A lot of these things are 3D printed that I've brought to the shop, and I allowed the players at the local shop, which is Highlander Games in Boonton, New Jersey, among other places that I play at, and as well as some other stuff that I've purchased, and just to create an interesting battlefield. And I must stress, for match play, for open play, for scenario play, Age of Sigmar allows you to have as much terrain as you can put down. You could have a completely saturated board and it still works. As a matter of fact, I think it works better. So that's something that I'm going to be doing with 3D printing. Anyway, getting to it, we get to turn 1, and it goes to the Undead. So I throw down my Van Hale's Dance and put it on my zombie unit, which I combine into one big unit. So now, I'll throw that there, and that gives me a lot of accelerators. With that special ability that the zombies have, this 220-man unit now becomes 40, and I get my maximum bonus to hit and wound. And that really is impressive, because what happens is you get +1 for every 10 models in the zombie unit to hit and wound. Now you start out with 6, which sucks, but you suddenly have a horde of zombies up to a maximum of, when you get to 30, if you have more, you're just padding for your losses, which you should expect. And now you're at 3 up to hit, 3 up to wound, and with the corpse cart nearby, I'm at 2 up to hit, 3 up to wound, which is not bad. There's 40 guys in that unit, and now with Van Hale's Dance, I can pile in and attack twice. Not immediately. I can activate them twice. I can choose a second time to activate them during the combat phase. So that can be pretty interesting. There's no rend. There's only one wound each. But that you're gonna it's attrition. You're going to force your opponent to make lots of saves. Especially with the rule of one, they're eventually going to fail some. They're going to take some casualties. This is not one of those shit kicker units that right off the bat does well, but you put the right amount of synergies on them, and they're pretty scary. They're pretty impressive. My general is this converted lord. It's my vampire lord mounted, so I go ahead and use his special ability, which is a command ability, which allows a unit to make one extra attack with each of their melee weapons until your next hero phase. I cannot stress enough, this is the model gets one extra attack with each of their melee weapons. That includes the mount, by the way. That's what makes this ability pretty interesting. Let's see. I put that on my Blood Knights. Why not? My Blood Knights are really tough to kill. Even if you kill them, they come back. They got 3 wounds apiece. They got a decent armor save. They can go down pretty quickly, especially if you have Rend, because it reduces some of their defenses. They have a decent save, which is negated somewhat by virtue of if you have any kind of Rend. They're really good against any units that don't have any Rend. But they have good attacks. They're really good on the charge, but once they get stuck in, they're more of a tanky unit. They're just not going to go away. But they don't really hit as hard in follow-up turns. So I want to add some attacks onto these guys so they can reduce some of the large numbers my opponent has. And then I throw up a Mystic Shield. Why? Because of what I just said. Their defense is really is linked to the fact that you don't have any Rend. So you got to pick and choose what units you're up against and see what has no Rend and put these guys in on that, because if those units shoot back, they're going to have a better armor. They're going to have a better save against those units. Anybody who has Rend, it kind of is like a double, screw. You lose basically 2 points on your save. One from the shield that they have that goes away because of the Rend, and also because of the Rend. So I throw a Mystic Shield up because if there's no Rend, I'm now at a 2-up save, and if there is Rend, I've got at least some way to keep them at like a 4-up. In any case, I move forward. I run forward my unit of zombies, now 40 strong, I believe. Yes, 40 strong. And you can see where the point of power is there that I'm trying to get within range of. I want to kind of create a line that makes it hard for him to get that plague furnace towards any of these points of power. But also, if I can create a buffer whereby I can get my units next to at least one, I have 2 characters, I believe. Yeah, I have 2. I can try to command 2 of these points of power and deny my opponent. Being that I have 2 leaders and he only has 1, it really put me at an advantage in that regard. But, as in any game, you got to try and maximize those advantages. Or if you're an opponent, try to take them away. So I move my corpse card up here, and again, I just want to keep in proximity, not just to the corpse card, but because I have the option that allows me to get +1 to casting within a certain range of the corpse card. I want to keep that middling between the necromancer and my vampire lord, and then move up modestly my vampire lord and these 2 rows of mounted troops. I want to try and get these guys into a position to go after that plague furnace. It's his only leader. That's, if I destroy that and I even get 1 point, I win the game. But I also want to try and test out my plan of marching up those Blood Knights and then having the Hex Wraiths follow up. And you can see that these are my converted Bretonnian Undead, by the way, which I'm furiously painting. So they'll be looking better next time. Okay, so turn 1, bottom turn 1, he does a very smart thing. He puts the inspiration down, but he puts it on his, I believe, his Plague Monks, which he has a modest unit of Plague Monks. It's not a massive unit, but they do get some enhancements in proximity to the Plague Furnace, which he's doing a nice job painting up, by the way. And that was smart. I might have put it, because these guys I don't think will get into combat right away, I might put it on one of his units of clan rats, just because those guys are going to take some casualties. And as you'll see, that really comes into play anytime you use battle. That's one of the best command abilities, if not the best command ability. Overall, universal, especially for horde armies, is the ability to ignore battle shock, because you're going to take casualties, and battle shock is eventually going to take it's like you're taking double if you have a horde army where you're just going to lose a lot of guys. So he moves up this big unit of clan rats on this side. This is going to get interesting. This is just lots of models for a 1K game. This is a very a saturated, large amount of units, and I like that. So we're clearly doing it right. And then he moves this side up here to try and, I think he's just sacrificing this unit of clan rats, which is pretty smart, just to prevent me from swooping around this side. And then moves his plague furnace with the plague monks up through the center. And I think there might be another small unit of clan rats in there too. I'm not sure. He has a plague claw catapult, which was smart. You know, very fluffy, works very well with this army, and also good for range because, hey, that's how it works in this game. And I love the fact that even all characters are vulnerable, and I really hope that never changes with, you know, the idea that that GW is taking suggestions from, you know, as far as the next General's Handbook, because the idea that you can target characters means that you can stop certain synergies. There's no lookout sirs except for certain special abilities, which does come into play also in this game. In any case, he doesn't go after my characters, though. I think this was a mistake. He goes after my zombies. He tries to start whittling them down. You know, I can restore die 6 of them every turn of those that don't get killed. And I think I'm going to make a couple of saves here, just avoiding the number, you know, some of the wounds, but I still lose 2. And then he moves he has his weapon teams in, and he only gets 1 off. I think he either rolled bad or a combination of that, as well as me making my my save. I think, if I remember correctly, I have the 5-up Deathless Minions. I forget. Deathless Minions, I believe, Deathless Minions and Rule Over Night combines for 5-up, but you have to be, that's within proximity to the general. And I make sure my general is within range of all these units. It's not hard to do at a 1K game. So we're going to turn 2, and I get some zombies back. So that's the whole point. You know, if you target these zombies, unless you really over the top focus fire on them, they're just going to get them back. It's like a waste of shots unless you can just bombard them. And it's better to do it in close combat because you have a better chance of getting more models to do more wounds. But with shooting, unless it's just a barrage of shooting, it's probably not as effective. So I get those back. Again, I throw the +1 save down once again on my Blood Knights. I use the death ability again on the Blood Knights. And then I move up my zombies within 3 inches to do some fun charging. And you know, this worked out really well for me. And again, same thing with this side of the table. And then, of course, make the easy charge. Anything but Snake Eyes would have done it. And now I've pushed him. He's going to have a hard time getting to either of these 2 places of power with that Plague Furnace. Charge in with the Blood Knights, well in front of where I need to be as far as the stopping him from getting to the place of power. But I make, in my opinion, a little bit of a mistake. I tried to get my general in there to kind of just do some additional damage because, again, I'm not as confident. I know on the charge the Blood Knights do well, but I want to get my general in there, maybe even to swoop around to the side to go after the Plague Furnace and take out his guy. But this was a mistake because I probably could have gotten another point on the place of power and collected another victory point, but I didn't. So I was a little overzealous. And plus, I'm now out of range with my general to give a +1 to the 6 roll 6 or higher to ignore wounds on my zombies. So we go in and we fight, and I think I remove a few of his clan rats, and then he fights back and kills off 4 of my zombies, which may have been reduced if I had had my general within range, because that just adds +1. But that +1 to Deathless Minions is only from the general's proximity. So now he's all the way up to the side, and of course I overemphasized what I put on this side to this 10-man unit of clan rats, and I just wiped them out. This unit was just way too much, and I wasted my general's efforts. He goes ahead and piles in with his plague rats and plague monks, and they get enhanced, I guess, by proximity to the furnace. And I think I did a couple wounds to him. I'm not sure, but he dishes about 8 or 10 wounds. Yep, 10 wounds listed here, and that's pretty bad. So I think I removed like 3 of his guys. I think he proxied some clan rats as plague monks, which is fine. And then I think I pile in again, and I do another 6 or 7, it looks like. No, this looks like 8. So I do 8 more, and then here's my wounds. I don't know if this is after Battle Shock. You know, he takes a few extra from Battle Shock on the clan rats because those weren't the unit. That's not the unit that that was immune to Battle Shock. But after both Battle Shock tests, I'm not sure if I took enough if I took enough wounds to take any, but after thinning the herd, you could see there's a lot less of everything here. So the casualties are starting to mount. We go to the bottom of turn 2. I'm up by 1 victory point. And he has this thing with the plague furnace where you can put a point on the table where he can enact a effect. I think it's on a 4-up. They take either a mortal wound or die 3 mortal wounds or something along those lines. So he puts it between my zombie unit and my my necromancer, which is smart. He puts his inspiring presence once again on his plague monks. Moves up his weapon teams. Shoots his plague catapult at my necromancer, which is smart. Now he's going after hard targets. I don't know. I forget if this is something that I had recommended to him, or he just dawned upon him that it was going to take a while to whittle through my zombies. But this was smart. So now I'm starting to take some wounds on my necromancer. And if he goes down, I mean, I can diffuse some of these wounds on a 4-up. I can put them onto my zombies, who then still get their 6 save to ignore the wound, but if the dice don't go with you, the dice don't go with you. And so he does a couple of wounds to me, and then he focuses with his weapon team and kills my necromancer, which was a smart move. I mean, now my necromancer can't use the Van Hales. I don't have the deathless minions to give this unit even a 6-up save. They have no saves now. So this was intelligent, and of course, on my mistake with moving my general away, I should have kept the middle of the row between these 2 units. So now these zombies are not quite as effective as they were, and for 2 reasons. One, they're lower in numbers, so they don't have quite as many of the accelerators as they had before. And 2, there's the character that's not near them that would buff them with being able to activate them twice to pile in, as well as an attack, as well as the ability to get that 6-up save, which can actually have an impact. So I believe his plague furnace. Then I think that this thing can do some damage in combat. I think it rolls in and kills another 5 zombies. So casualties are mounting. I pile in to go after. I forget if these are the plague monk. Yeah, I think these are the plague monks. Either that he proxied or I just forget, but I think this is part of his plague monk unit, and I kill off a bunch of them. This might have been the clan rats. I'm not sure, but it's part of this collage of units of a unit that he has next to his furnace. He then piles these guys can do some serious damage. They do so many attacks, and they start wiping out the zombies. The zombies have no defense now. Again, mistake on my part. So I lose a ton more zombies, and then I lose a ton more through battle shock because I didn't make them immune to battle shock. It's a key thing to do. You make these guys immune to battle shock, and you give them that 5-up save, and it's going to be a serious combination. So the rest of the unit gets wiped out. So that's the end of that. No more zombies on the table. So definitely mishandled. Here is the battlefield as it stands at this point. You can see that again, no zombies left on the right side of the table. No, just the corpse cart. A lot of stuff on the left side of the table, but again, my hex rates did not. I believe what happened was I did not have enough room to fly them up in the previous phase, or I'd forgotten. So they were not in the in this part of the battle, and we'll see how they come into play in the follow-up. We go to the top of turn 3, and he gets the first turn. So he again puts inspiring presence on his plague monks. He uses this ability from his furnace, Rabid Fever. So you select the pestilence unit within 13 inches, and it bestows that unit with brain fervor that drives them into a rabid killing frenzy. So if a model from this unit is slain, it can make a pile-in move and then attack with one of its weapons before you remove it, which I think is great. It's very similar to the Cornite ability, where something you kill it and they can basically get a chance to hit you back before you remove the model. In any case, he moves in this unit of clan rats to get closer to finish off my corpse cart, and then moves his furnace over to this side to address the Blood Knights and or my general, which is pretty ballsy in my opinion, because that plague furnace is tough, but there's a lot that he's facing in terms of attack power. Using his weapon team, he shoots off 1 wound from the corpse cart, so he's getting it a little bit weaker. He used the plague catapult to do, it looks like only another point. I think he just rolled poorly, probably just rolled ones on the multiplier, but charges in with his clan rats and swarms the corpse cart, which no longer has his screen of zombies. And then charges in with his plague furnace on my blood knights. He activates the plague furnace first, and I believe he only does one wound. Oh no, he drops. I think he dropped that point that he could put on the table, and we just did this out of order, or we had just forgotten it, and I let him go ahead and do it, which is fine. I believe I took 4 wounds off my general, which sucks. And only 1 wound off of one of my blood knights. So my general's only at 1 wound at this point. And I fight back, and I dish a couple of wounds off the plague furnace, so I'm dropping it only down to 10, it looks like. So this thing still has plenty of gusto left. He has a couple of these plague months left, it looks like. So he moved them in and tried to dish some attacks. I think they just bounced off of my blood knights. His clan rats then go to town on my my apologies. The corpse cart dishes a couple of wounds to his clan rats, and then that was the end of that. So we go to bottom of turn 3, and I finally get my my hex rates into the fray. And it looks like here, I got the 2 dice that I'm seeing from the plague furnace. He had 10 wounds left. I think I might have done 4 wounds just by flying the hex rates over and past the plague furnace. I know he did some wounds to it, but I forget exactly how many. I only did a standard move. I didn't do like a run, which I do a lot of times, try and get some extra movement, because you've got to end their move 3 inches away from any enemies. But I wanted to be able to, if I could, get them all in there so that I could then charge them later. If I do the run, I can't do a charge. So I managed to pluck off a few wounds from him, I believe, from doing their signature, spirit walk. And then, so what happens actually is I think I only did 1 wound. So the dice that were shown in the previous picture were incorrect. So I only did 1 wound. So it's only a 6 up. I believe it's not as great of an ability, but I think if you can do the swoop over and then not do a run and then be able to do a charge, you kind of get double dipping. Your movement can actually effectively give you a couple of extra mortal wounds, depending on how many you have. I think they're more effective in units of 10, but it's pretty expensive. In any case, I swoop my general around. I believe I had used my chalice, which restored some of his wounds. He was down to 1 wound, and I was thinking I can get this plague furnace. I got to get everything in there. So my vampire lord, my Bretonian lord, a vampire, swoops in behind the furnace, and I flub. I'm sure that I just flubbed this because he was at 9 wounds before, and he's still at 9 wounds. So I didn't roll very well. But he fights back. And what does he get? He gets me down once again from 4 wounds to 1. And then there's some follow-up attack that then kills my vampire lord. So my vampire lord is not even around anymore. So I don't have any of the deathless minions ability, and it just goes to show that, again, if you can take out your opponent's key synergistic characters, then things can start falling apart. We go to, I think I've only got 1 wound off of one of my blood knights, and I fight back, and I drop this thing down to now 6 wounds. So again, they didn't do it. The blood knights weren't on a charge. There's only, I think, 2, maybe 3 of them that could attack the plague furnace, and I think the rest of them wipe out the remainder of the plague monks. The clan rats have an easy time finishing off this corpse cart. I go and attack once again with, I think, the hex rates this time, and drop his furnace down to only 1 wound. So I just came that close to killing the thing, and that is the name of the game. That's it. That's the way it works. We and of course technical difficulties. So this was a fun game. I'm going to go and start this over again. Let's go ahead and open this up. Let's go, and there we go. There we go. So we'll just bring this up to, yeah, so you could see what some of the battlefield looks like. Here we go. So this was, again, a fun game and a challenging game, and it was something that I think was a good example of what kind of mistakes you can make in the midst of the game when you have decisions to make. And sometimes on the spot, you just don't make those decisions the best way you could have. I should have put down, instead of trying to add some additional benefits to my Blood Knights, which didn't have as much of an impact, I should have made my zombies immune to battle shock. That would have made them survive a lot longer and made them a factor in the game. My plan was working initially, and it fell apart because I did not keep my zombies as strong as they were, and then they got wiped out. My Vampire Lord, I stuck him in there, and the Vampire Lord, unfortunately, when he's mounted, all you get is an extra movement. You don't get any bonus to save. You don't get any extra wounds. I think that's a mistake in Age of Sigmar that unfortunately they don't. I think that would be nice if you took an alternate version with the mount. Maybe you have to pay an extra 10 points or something like that, but you get maybe a +1 wound and a +1 to your save characteristic. Those are nice things. Sometimes those things happen, but they used to happen in 8th edition. They don't happen in Age of Sigmar. So fine, he died. He's not as defensive as he could be. I put him in there, and he got jacked. But I made a mistake. I swooped him out to the side. I didn't try to go after the extra point that I could have gotten for the mission. I should have kept him closer to the zombies. That would have helped considerably to keep the zombies up longer after the Necromancer died. Either way, I made a couple of tactical mistakes, and my opponent capitalized on those mistakes and made this game far more competitive than it looked like it was going to be initially. We had stopped at turn 3. I think if it kept on going, I had enough stuff on the battlefield that I would have finished off his Plague Furnace and probably dished some good damage to either finished off his weapon teams or wiped out his clan rats for 2 more turns. I had my full strength Blood Knights and full strength Hex Wraiths. However, I had no characters, and that was all I had. I had those 2 units. Certainly more points than he had left on the table, and his Plague Furnace was going to go down. But this was a good demonstration of how somebody who is savvy in tabletop wargaming can maximize a bad situation and turn it around, because he certainly made a game of it by taking advantage of my mistakes. And being a new player, I can see that he's going to be a fun opponent to play against, especially as he grows this army, which I know he's already done, and certainly as he paints it up, which both of us are going to be doing more of. And so there'll be more to come. And I know there's a lot of Skaven fans out there, so expect to see this matchup as well as other stuff I'm going to pit against and other armies that I'm going to pit against it in the future. I know a couple of people that play Skaven, but they play fairly irregularly. But I have a feeling that this opponent is going to be a common Batrep that you're going to see on the channel. Thanks for tuning in. Hope you keep an eye out for more that's coming, and have a great day, everybody.